I'm always busy doing housework or going to work, so I like to get away from home and chill with friends. We've got lots of animals at home, so looking after the animals. Our family is really close. I have 2 daughters, husband, and my father is also very close to us. I was feeling really tired all the time, and I'll go to pick the girls up from school and I'll fall asleep, and I couldn't watch a movie all the way through. I'd watch the very beginning and wake up at the end. And also thought I had a pinched nerve because I had a really sore hip. So I went to the doctor and asked him to relieve the pinched nerve, and that's where the ball started rolling. When I first went to the doctor about the pain I was having, he checked my abdomen, and he still doesn't know why he checked my abdomen, but he sent me for an ultrasound, which showed the enlarged spleen. The radiologist nurse actually mentioned leukemia at the time, so it made me really suspicious. So when I went home, I thought, well, maybe it's just a virus. When the doctor saw it, he sent me for blood tests. The morning I had a blood test, that night another doctor from the practice rang me at 6 o'clock and told me that I had leukemia. And he said that he would get someone from the Royal Adelaide Hospital to ring me. They rang me probably within half an hour, and they wanted me to go straight to the hospital, but we talked about it and decided that there wasn't anything they were going to do that night, so I stayed home to spend the night with my family. It wasn't a virus, and it was serious because I knew what leukemia was. They didn't know it was CML straight away. They had to do the bone marrow biopsy to confirm it. My whole world fell apart.
My name's Jill. I've got married 49 years, have 3 children and 7 wonderful grandchildren. I like spending time with the family. I do quilting, cooking, and I like to travel. Just before I was diagnosed, I'd been away overseas for 3 weeks. I'd come home and I was just sort of feeling tired, and I sort of thought, well, been away, what have you. But then after I'd been home for a few months, I still didn't feel right, and I hadn't done anything about it. And then one weekend I got a bout of gastro and vomiting, and it was on the Friday night, and Saturday I was still in bed when my husband come home at lunchtime, and he rang the local doctor that said take me up to our local hospital at Gumaraka, and he said to me 2 things he could do. He could give me some tablets and send me home, and it would take me a week to get better, or I could stay in and he'd stick me on a drip and I'd be right by Monday. So I took the staying in hospital because I was organising a back to school within a fortnight, so I wanted to be right. But while I was in hospital, he actually did a blood test and sent it away, and just before he sent it away, he asked for a complete one. And that was how I was diagnosed, just really quite by accident. My local doctor, when he got the results back from the blood test, came in who was explaining things to me, and I knew he was talking about leukemia, but I wasn't prepared to say that. So he organised me to go down to the Royal Adelaide Hospital and have some tests because they weren't quite sure what exactly it was. So when I was first diagnosed in October 2000, I didn't realise there were so many different forms of a leukemia even. And I don't think I was prepared to accept that I had leukemia. My first thought was, I need to be here to see my grandchildren grow up. They were very little at the time. They're now between 21 and 14. And I think I was more worried about leaving my family.
I was more concerned about my husband and my girls and what they were going to do because I was so ill. Everybody just went numb, not knowing what was going to happen. After talking to the oncology, I went into hospital first thing in the morning and was in complete shock of not knowing how long I was going to be in hospital for and what treatment was available, because you hear of cancer and you hear of chemotherapy, but with leukemia it was like, well, don't know. Once I came to terms with having the illness, I read the books that I got given from the doctors, which was the Leukemia Foundation ones. I then slowly started looking at different things on the internet, but I kept away from any stories that other people were saying because most of them were sad and not very nice endings, and I wanted to keep positive because I was going to fight this illness. I wasn't going to let CML beat me, and I actually told Tim Hughes that I wanted another 44 years out of life. So that was the first steps to being really positive. The first treatment I had, I went on to hydroxyurea, which I thought was really ironic because I had to wear gloves to take it. I wasn't allowed to handle it, but I was actually putting it into my body, and it was quite toxic stuff. I was on that for about 21 days, and the results came through that I definitely had CML, so I could then start on the Gleevec trial.
After my week of testing and everything, I was asked by Professor Hughes if I'd like to go on the trial for this new tablet. He told me on the old treatment I'd have about 3 years, and on the new treatment, well, they didn't know, but hopefully it would be better. So I signed up for the trial within about a week, and I got the old treatment first, which was interferon. I had to inject myself with that, and then every 28 days, every 14 days and 28, I had to inject myself with Aracea, which really took a toll on me. My life, I didn't have one. I had kept working though, because I had to have a reason to get out of bed, but the quality of life was really, really bad. And after 22 months of being on the interferon, I was able to change the Gleevec, and I've never looked back since.
Before starting the treatment, I was really in shock, and I had no idea what the future held. All I knew is that I wanted to survive it, and I wanted to get through the treatment, even if it meant I had to be on treatment for the rest of my life. I could still have goals in my life. I was more concerned about my family, with how they were going to cope, but we dealt with it as a family. During treatment, you've really got to listen to your own body and watch what you eat, watch what you drink, and work it out for yourself, what's going to upset you, and stay away from them. Spicy foods used to make me feel really sick, so I didn't eat them. Alcohol was 1 glass because it just didn't mix with the treatment. So you've really got to work out what's best for your own body. So there were simple things like when I took my medication, I was always sick. So when I took my medication after a meal, I stayed seated for about 15-20 minutes after I took my medication, and I found that I wasn't throwing up within the hour if I did that. Whereas if I took my medication and carried on doing things, I was really sick. Spicy food, same thing. So it was just learning myself of what my body could cope with and how to deal with it. So I was taking medication twice a day. I was on that for 4.5 years, and with my results being negative, I then came off of the treatment.
I was prepared to go along with the treatment I was having. I was also lucky enough to be on with the clinical trial. I had a clinical trials nurse that I could ring up if I had any worries, and that's how I got through with my diagnosis. I first started on Gleevec in about late 2002. I didn't know much about the treatment, what it was. I found out it was tablet form. At that stage I had to take 4 tablets every night with my dinner. It's not very nice if you take them without food. Don't have very good effect on you. I found I had it caused fluid retention, depression, weight gain. I get cramps in my hands, and you can't sort of do anything for a while. They're quite painful, but I suppose really they're just simple little things that you can get through. You've got your life back, and that's the main thing.
I'd been on Gleevec for 4.5 years, and my BCRs were negative, and they'd been negative for quite a while. So the doctors were suggesting that maybe it was time for me to see if the CML had gone. We really didn't know what would happen, whether the CML would come back at blast stage or not. But there was a few people that had come off of the treatment already, and there was no signs of that. So after a bit of consideration, talking with the family, we decided that it was time to maybe try it. And my biggest incentive was one of my bone marrows that I had. Another patient was laying next to me, and he'd actually come off of his drugs a few months before, and he could see I was really anxious. So he came over and talked to me, and just the inspiration I had from his story made me decide that yes, it is now time. So in discussions with the doctors, we made that decision, set a date, and here we are 3.5 years later without drugs. One of the reasons for coming off of the treatment also was if it meant that my body could have a few months break from the drugs, that was going to be beneficial, because there was still no guarantees, and also they didn't know what sort of damage the major organs were having from all the drugs. So it was suggested that even if I'm only off of the drugs for a few months or 6 months, it would give my body a break. And if I didn't come off the drugs, we would never know whether the CML has gone or not. So I came off of the drugs thinking, well, worst case scenario is I have to start my treatment again. And I've already dealt with it, so I know what I'm in for next time round. I knew that once I stopped taking Gleevec, I wasn't going to feel sick anymore, because the odd times that I did miss a tablet, which was very rare, I actually didn't feel sick for 12 hours. So I was nervous, but looking forward to not having side effects. And it did take quite a few months for some of the side effects to wear off. I didn't realise how many side effects I was actually dealing with. Simple things like being able to walk around barefoot because I couldn't feel my feet. Not having watery eyes all the time and having to put drops in your eyes. And the main one is not having all that medication, the potassium, the magnesium, and everything else that went along with the Gleevec. The first few months of not having the drugs, it was really good not having to take all that medication every day and looking in the mirror going, I don't have to remember to take those drugs. It actually felt really good, and I just wanted to keep going along that line. I was still anxious because I didn't know, I was having regular blood tests and I didn't know whether the CML would come back, and I dreaded the day that I would be told that I have to go into the medication. But I said to myself, suck it up, and if that happens, deal with it then. But in the meantime, enjoy the freedom of not having drugs.
When I was offered the treatment for my remission trial, it was by Professor Hughes. He told me that there was this new trial going, and people that had been on interferon and that at the beginning and then gone to Gleevec had a really good response. And some people have been off for a few years and didn't have to go back on the medication. The remission trial was just stopping your medication. And I thought, well, if I don't have to take tablets, I won't. So I was quite happy to do it. But in my case, I only lasted was less than 3 months. But saying that, they look after you very well. They keep testing you regularly. And that, so within the 3 months, I was back on Gleevec again, and everything was fine. I knew that if it didn't work, that was still available to me.
Although you are really anxious when you want to come off of your treatment, it's the only way you're going to find out if the CML has gone. I was really anxious myself, but the worst case scenario is that you go back onto your Gleevec and you know what you're in store for that. So think positive and give it a go. It will give your body a rest from all the drugs.
Since I was first diagnosed, the marvellous research and the further lot more information and everything that is available these days is very helpful for you now. When you're first diagnosed, it wasn't there. And I'm just so grateful for all those research people for what they've done to get me to where I am today. If you're not sure what you need to know, you could I think you just rely on your doctors, or that's what I did. I know a lot of people these days look up things on the internet and what have you, but sometimes it's not the fully correct information. There again, they've got the Leukemia Foundation. There's people here that can help them and point them in the right direction, I think.
With people that are newly diagnosed with CML, I say don't let it be a death sentence and don't be a victim. Seek help, seek support. If you don't have the family that are strong and support you, seek outside help. Also, the family needs support. With support groups, you could also talk to other people that are going through the same situations, and you may be able to help each other out because they understand where you're coming from as well. CML is pretty rough and it puts you through. We've had some really rough times with it. You need emotional support as well as sometimes the physical support. Don't be scared to ask for the support. If you don't have the family that can support you, contact Leukemia Foundation and they will offer you support. Support is really important while you're undergoing treatment and when you get first diagnosed. I found that my family were my strongest support. Close family, friends who we thought were very close, we actually lost touch because they actually didn't know how to deal with my illness and how to treat the family. So unfortunately and very sadly, we don't actually have much to do with them anymore. But other friends have come forward and they've been a great support to the family.
The friends that are really close to you stay with you. There's others that probably just want to know what's going on, and once they've found out they're away. But I've been really lucky. Being in a small community, the whole lot probably knew. They were very supportive and they were there. If I needed help, I only had to ask. So I was very lucky in that way. At first, you're very tired, you find it hard to do things, and having that support, family, friends, whoever around you just there to boost you up is magnificent. But I think the hardest thing you have to do is learn to ask for the support. Well, the Leukemia Foundation, I suppose it's only been about the last 5 years that I've had a lot to do with them, and they're marvellous. The people are here to help or point you in the right direction if you need help. To live with CML, well, the first few years was really difficult. I was really very tired, thin, and what have you, but I kept working. To me, that's what got me through. I just cut my hours down and went whenever I could for the first few years. I think you learn to pace yourself, and I was told once to listen to your body, and I think that's the best advice somebody can give you.
The first 5 years were really rough. I now enjoy life and look forward to my kids graduating from university, getting married, and having them being more independent. My husband and I can now look at future adventures that we can do together. Being asked to share my story on this DVD has brought up some emotional aspects, and our whole family has actually been able to reflect back on the years that we've been dealing with the CML. If you've been newly diagnosed with CML, seek your support, and I wish you all the best.